Have you ever noticed that the most dangerous person in House of the Dragon doesn't ride a dragon, doesn't command an army, doesn't sit on the Iron Throne, and never declares herself for either side? While everyone else is obsessed with winning the war, she's obsessed with something far stranger. Every major player believes they're making their own decisions. Damon believes he's reclaiming his purpose. Aemond believes he's chasing victory. Rhaenyra believes she's fighting for her birthright. Yet every road, somehow, leads to Harrenhal. And waiting inside Harrenhal is always the same woman. Alys Rivers never arrives too early. She never arrives too late. She appears at the exact moment history is about to change. At first, that feels like coincidence. Then it happens again and again. Eventually, coincidence stops being a satisfying explanation. Because if every person capable of changing the future ends up standing before Alys Rivers, then perhaps she isn't witnessing history unfold. Perhaps she's quietly deciding how it unfolds. What if the greatest secret of the Dance of the Dragons isn't hidden inside King's Landing or Dragonstone? What if it's hidden inside the oldest cursed castle in Westeros, where one mysterious woman has spent years waiting for the right people to walk through her door? Suddenly, Alys Rivers no longer looks like a strange witch who occasionally delivers prophecies. She begins to look like the only person who already knows exactly how this war is supposed to end. That's the mistake almost everyone makes when trying to understand Alys. We treat her like every other prophet in fantasy, someone who sees fragments of tomorrow and warns the heroes before disappearing back into the shadows. But George R.R. Martin has never written prophecy that way. In his world, prophecy doesn't exist to save people. It exists to test them. Daenerys the Dreamer foresaw the doom of Valyria, but she couldn't prevent it. Melisandre spent years staring into the flames, convinced she understood destiny, only to discover that prophecy reveals truth in pieces rather than complete answers. Even the prince that was promised remains mysterious, because Martin has always been more interested in how people respond to prophecy than whether prophecy itself is true. Alys Rivers fits that pattern perfectly, but there's one enormous difference. Unlike everyone else blessed or cursed with visions, Alys never seems confused by what she sees. She never questions herself. She never struggles to interpret the future. She speaks with the calm confidence of someone who isn't predicting events at all. She speaks like someone who has already watched them happen. Now ask yourself a simple question. Why Harrenhal? Out of every place in Westeros, why does Martin continue returning to this castle whenever the story drifts toward destiny, prophecy, or psychological transformation? Harrenhal isn't merely another fortress scarred by dragonfire. It's the most haunted location in the Seven Kingdoms. Every great house that claims it suffers. Every lord who believes he controls it eventually loses something more valuable than land. Entire bloodlines vanish within its walls. The castle itself almost feels alive, as though history refuses to leave it alone. Most people assume Harrenhal is cursed because so many terrible things have happened there. But what if that's backwards? What if terrible things keep happening there because Harrenhal is where history gathers before changing direction? If that sounds impossible, then look at the people who pass through it. They don't leave the way they arrived. Harrenhal changes them. And standing quietly at the center of those transformations is Alys Rivers. Consider Daemon Targaryen. Before arriving at Harrenhal, Daemon believes the war can still be won through strength, reputation, and military brilliance. He's impulsive, arrogant, convinced that force solves every problem. Then he meets Alys Rivers, and almost immediately the story changes. She doesn't hand him a prophecy and disappear. She dismantles him. She forces him to confront memories he has buried for years. He begins seeing Viserys, young Rhaenyra, faces from his past, moments of guilt, moments of regret. Some viewers interpret those visions as ghosts haunting Harrenhal. Others believe the castle itself is responsible. But notice something fascinating. Those visions don't appear until Damon enters Alys' world. She never tells him exactly what to believe. She simply removes the walls, separating him from his own conscience. By the time Damon leaves Harrenhal, he isn't merely carrying new information. He's carrying an entirely different understanding of himself. That's an extraordinary achievement. Armies couldn't change Damon. His family couldn't change Damon. Yet one woman living inside a ruined castle reaches places inside his mind no sword ever could. That alone should make us suspicious. But then, history repeats itself with someone even more dangerous. Aemond Targaryen arrives at Harrenhal as perhaps the most terrifying military force left in the war. He rides Vhagar, the largest living dragon. He commands fear wherever he goes. His confidence borders on absolute certainty. And once again, who is waiting? Alys Rivers. She doesn't challenge him with soldiers. She doesn't threaten him with dragons. She speaks to him the same way she spoke to Damon, calmly, patiently, almost as though she's been expecting him for years. That's the pattern people ignore. Alys never chases power. Power comes to her. More importantly, the people who arrive at Harrenhal are never ordinary. She isn't interested in random knights, minor lords, or forgotten nobles. She somehow attracts the handful of people capable of reshaping the future of Westeros itself. If that keeps happening, we have to ask whether she's choosing them or whether she's been waiting because she already knew they would come. The obvious explanation is that Alys possesses prophetic abilities. The show certainly encourages that interpretation. She understands things she shouldn't possibly know. She speaks about people before they've revealed their intentions. She seems strangely comfortable with uncertainty, because uncertainty never appears to surprise her. But prophecy alone doesn't explain her behavior. Plenty of characters in Martin's world receive visions. Very few know exactly how to use them. Alys does. She rarely overwhelms anyone with dramatic predictions. Instead, she asks carefully chosen questions. She offers tiny observations. She plants ideas that continue growing long after the conversation ends. That's not how someone behaves if they're merely watching fate unfold. That's how someone behaves when they understand that changing history doesn't require controlling people. It only requires nudging them toward decisions they already wanted to make. That's what makes Alys so terrifying. She never steals anyone's free will. Damon still makes his own choices. Aemond still believes he's acting independently. But every conversation with Alys gently shifts the direction of those choices. It's like watching someone redirect the course of a river without ever touching the water. A single stone placed in the right position can alter the entire current miles downstream. Alys doesn't need dragons because dragons are blunt instruments. She works with something far more powerful: human psychology, regret, fear, ambition, grief. She understands that kingdoms aren't transformed by swords alone. They're transformed by the people holding them. And if you can reshape those people at exactly the right moment, you've already reshaped history. And then there's the clue hidden in plain sight. Alys never asks for a reward. Every other major player in the dance is chasing something tangible. Otto Hightower wants stability through control. Alicent wants to protect her children. Rhaenyra wants the throne she believes is rightfully hers. Aegon wants to keep the crown he was given. Damon wants purpose, legacy, and recognition. Even Aemond, beneath all his confidence, desperately wants to prove that he is the strongest Targaryen alive. Alys alone stands outside that endless pursuit of power. She never demands a castle. She never seeks a title. She never gathers supporters. She never raises an army. If ambition truly drives every character in this story, then Alys is the one exception, and George R.R. Martin almost never creates exceptions without a reason. That forces us to ask a far more unsettling question. If she isn't trying to win the dance, then what exactly is she trying to preserve? Perhaps the answer isn't a kingdom at all. Perhaps she's protecting a future. Every decision she makes suggests she values the outcome of history more than the people creating it. In her eyes, Damon isn't merely a prince. Aemond isn't merely a rival claimant. They're pieces on a board only she can fully see, each one moving toward a destination they've mistaken for their own choice. That possibility completely transforms every scene she's in. Instead of watching a mysterious woman whisper cryptic warnings, we're watching someone quietly maintaining the timeline she believes must happen. It also explains why Alys never appears surprised, even when chaos erupts around her. She doesn't panic because chaos isn't disrupting her plan. It may actually be confirming it. George R.R. Martin has always blurred the line between prophecy and self-fulfilling destiny, where the attempt to escape fate often becomes the very thing that fulfills it. Alys seems to understand that better than anyone. She never tells people exactly what to do because she doesn't need to. She simply places the right thought into the right mind at the right moment, trusting that human nature will carry the rest of the burden. And if that's true, then the real mastermind of the dance isn't sitting on the Iron Throne or commanding dragons across the skies of Westeros. She's standing quietly inside the blackened halls of Harrenhal, watching kings, queens, and dragon riders convince themselves they're shaping history. While all along, history has been flowing exactly where Alys Rivers intended.